What it do, young cuz? It's your man Bun Squeaks, cuz. I'm just here to give you a little bit of advice, cuz. I don't think you should do this one, cuz. The ops in the street, cuz. I don't know if you want to mess with them stands, cuz.
Nah, son. You can't talk about this, son. You can't talk about this. You're not allowed to talk about this, son. You can't talk about our boy, son.
Are you sure you want to do this?
Look, y'all, I just posted on my social media. We just had this conversation about the weirdo hate mail that I get. Not just for this channel, but for all the writing I've done over all these years. Look, I love debating. I love talking about my thoughts. Ask her. I definitely love debating to a fault. But there's a difference between debating and attacking, because attacking is just corny. And I think that we are in this part of our culture right now where everyone loves clapbacks and attacks, because I think we've lost the art of debating. Like, think about it. Now what should be positive conversation, even heavy debated conversation, always turns into three things. Between stan culture, the internet being able to hide behind avatars, and just being dumber. I think we've just lost the art of communication. Today, we're going to communicate and we're going to have some healthy debate, because yes, I'm doing it. I am going to rank every Drake album. I will rank every EP and then throw in a little bit of mixtapes too. Show some love there. So, yep. Talking about hate mail. I'm probably going to get some for this one. Pray for me, y'all. Welcome back, players, to another edition of the Soul and Stereo Sessions here on YouTube. Yes, you heard me right. Against my better judgment, today we're talking about Aubrey Graham, and we are talking about the best albums and the worst that Drake has ever dropped. Now, let's be honest. The elephant is in the room. Let's just keep it a buck and see what's going on. Over the years, I have not been the most supportive Drake person on the internet. And that's not to discredit his talent. I think that when it comes to rapping, when he's focused, he's actually pretty good. Early Drake, when he was doing the melodies and R&B thing, I thought he was really good. I actually preferred R&B Drake more than hip-hop Drake. But as time went on, as he got comfortable, the quality started to dip. And you'll see a lot of that in this list, because as his star became bigger, it seems like the quality was not measuring up. But today, y'all come for me for the real, so we're going to talk about that real today. The realness and looking back at the career, very controversially in 2025, if you know what I'm saying, of Drake. So, before we get started, y'all know what it is. Take a second and hit like on this video, because you know you're going to like it. At least I hope you do. And after you do that, make sure you share this video with folks in your hip-hop circle as well, so we can have some healthy debate, not attacking. Please behave, y'all. And once you're done with that, leave some comments. Let us know and keep the conversation going in the comments. And how did I forget? If you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to the channel. It's an easy 1-second click for you, but means so much to your boy. So make sure you do that. Show the channel some love so we can keep growing and putting the good word out for hip-hop and R&B. And speaking of, yes, today we're talking about Drake, an artist who has straddled that line of hip-hop and R&B. And as I've said, when he's at the peak of his game, he's at the peak of his game. He has become the face of hip-hop for the past decade for a reason. So let's look and see which albums hold up and which ones need to be held in fire. Let's get it. All right, we're gonna jump in at number 16 with the most recent album, Some Sexy Songs for You. What was this? Look, I get it. I understand the strategy behind this album. It was pretty smart. So after coming off the debate with Kendrick Lamar and all of this, does Drake still have it? Did the battle destroy his career? We are looking for an album to see if he can hold up that hip hop strength that he had before. Is he gonna come back spitting and outspit Kendrick, as we know that he has the ability to do? Some say. I don't know about that, but some say that. Is he gonna come back hard? Is what folks wanted to know. He went the other way. Instead of coming back with a hip hop heavy record that will obviously be compared to anything that Kendrick has done, and quite fair, honestly, is not gonna measure up. Drake is good at his best day. He's not on Kendrick's level. So, smartly, he went the opposite direction. He did this collabo R&B album with his boy, Party Next Door. And the strategy is smart. So, if he puts out this album, and if people love it, it's like, oh, Drake is back. If the album tanks, we can say, oh, well, it wasn't a real Drake return. Like, this wasn't a real reintroduction. This wasn't a real comeback. This was just something fun for the streets. So no one can really judge me for it. And then they can put the heat on Party Next Door. It's like, oh, maybe that album wasn't so great. Maybe it was Party Next Door. We'll get the real album later. Very smart strategy, Drake. Too bad this album is horrible. Horrible. The worst thing Drake has put out. And I'm sure most of you have turned the video off already, but I gotta be real with y'all. He has done way better. Half of this album sounds like one long, droning, same song. Oh my God. Oh my God. The second half of the album actually gets a little bit better as we start getting into more Drakeisms. Like the Nokia song is so ridiculous, but I kind of like it. It's sort of Hot Blind Bling 2025-ish a little bit. I like that kind of stuff from Drake. So it has moments where it's fun. It has moments of introspection here and there. But for the most part, this was just a lazy cash grab. It seems like he just had some leftover tracks that were half finished. He threw Party Next Door on it to fill it out. Boom, here you go. Of course it did well, because everything Drake does well. But is this going to hold up over time as a great album? I don't think so. No. This album is too low. This is too low. Drake is our GOAT. Why do you have this album so low? What's wrong with you? I'm gonna flatten your tires, son. How many times are we gonna hear that this video? But yes, coming in at number 15. What a time to be alive. I remember thinking that this was the bottom of the barrel of Drake releases way back in 2015, but nope, not anymore. Once again, very similar to Some Sexy Songs for You, which is what a horrible title. This album just feels like a slapdash project with Future. It feels like a scraps that Future had that Drake jumped on and was like, hey, here you go, here's a project. And because, especially by 2015, Drake was like on fire, putting these two very popular artists together on one project. Of course it did well, but I'm here to talk quality, not just streaming numbers and platinum plaques. And when it comes to quality, this ain't much. There are a few fun songs on, the Jumpman. There are a few things that are catchy, but as an overall project, it's very forgettable. Most of these albums that we're going to be talking about on the latter half of this list are basically projects where you can pick 3 songs from, throw it on your playlist, and people say, oh, it's a great album. No, it's got 2 songs that you cherry pick. It's not a great album. And this certainly is not a great album. And at number 14, yes, it's Certified Lover Boy. Yet another disastrous album from modern day Drake. I don't know. It's like homie doesn't even care right now at this point. He was just throwing stuff at the wall. And again, yes, I get it. There are some good tracks on it. Yebba's Heartbreak. I mean, I know it's a Yebba song. That's some of the best stuff that has ever been on a Drake album in the past few years. So yeah, there's ways that you can find some stuff to celebrate. And even you can appreciate some of the more goofy songs and features that aren't half bad for what they are. But again, look at this as an overall project. There is just nothing here that you can sink your teeth in. It's just randomness. It's just stuff thrown against the wall. He took a whole bunch of feces, threw it against the wall, saw what stick. There are a couple turds that hung on the wall, and it's like, oh, there you go. Just so unfocused. Look at the album cover, y'all. Like, what? Like, y'all even trying? It's just ridiculous. There could have been something here with a little bit more focus and a little bit more just concentration and commitment to the craft. But all we got is a bunch of sloppy stuff. Please, can we get to the good albums? I'm struggling. In at number 13 is For All the Dogs. At least this is slightly better than some of the other ones we talked about. But again, I'm sounding like a broken record because it's the same problem. An album that's basically a collection of random songs. They're very meandering. A bunch of them sound the same. There's no focus. There's nothing to really grab you. And when it's done, there's nothing I remember for it. This album is 84 minutes. And I can pick out maybe 2 songs from it. And that's not counting the deluxe edition. That's another 6 or 7 songs. It's just stuff. It's not an album. It's stuff. And it's not stuff that I want to waste my time on. My gosh. Can we please get to the good albums? Your boy is struggling with this list. Alright, here at number 12 is Scorpion. Again, it's a little better than those later albums that we've talked about so far. But look, in theory, this album could have worked. I like the double disc concept because you could have the R&B side and the hip hop side. And those are the 2 lines that Drake has always kind of straddled. So I was like, okay, I get that concept. That could work. But what happened is what keeps happening on everything we've talked about on this list till I'm blue in the face like a smurf. Good songs, 2 or 3 good songs mixed in with like 10 or 11 nothings. So even though After Dark is a song I love, maybe one of my favorite Drake songs in recent memory, shout out to Static Major, I love what they did on that song. There's some good stuff here, 8 out of 10, like there's some stuff, but there is so much filler, so much nonsense, so much nothing that it gets lost. If I cherry pick the songs off that I like off this album, okay, I could make a probably 7-track EP and be like, this is really solid. But if you judge this as an overall project, it's just too much. This thing needed a desperate trim. And if you're going to do a double disc album, which is always tricky as it is, you got to make sure both sides are tight. I prefer the dark R&B side a little bit better. But again, what are we doing? Get this man an editor, please. Coming in at number 11 is Room for Improvement, and thank you, we finally get some listenable music. This is going back to 2006. Drake's rarely mentioned early debut mixtape with this one, and I thought that this showed a lot of potential. I did not hear this real time. I heard it many years later, and no, it doesn't measure up to some of his more celebrated mixtape that we'll obviously get to later on in this list. But there's just so much unrefined potential. You see that this is an artist that has a lot going on. Like, yeah, you can tell that, like, I don't know, he has his sound that he's still developing. He hasn't quite become like his Drake sound yet. And we know modern day Drake loves to steal somebody else's sound. That man is the Shang Tsung of artists. Good Lord, he'll just snatch a soul. But here he's still finding himself, and that's actually kind of interesting from a historical perspective to see him grow into himself and learn and find out who he is. So when you hear him on stuff like the Kick Push remix, you're like, okay, this dude has something. This is dope. Again, it was not quite the artist that he would become, but you can see the building blocks of something. So if you haven't heard this mixtape, if you're a Drake fan, I know if like you're a real Drake fan, not these weirdo stans that just started listening to him in 2016 or something. But if you want to go back and have a historical perspective of where he's become, don't miss this album, because you can really see that he had the talent and where he grew upon there. Ain't the best, but it's certainly better than some of the other stuff we just talked about. Alright, coming in at number 10 is the Dark Lane demo tapes. This dropped in 2020, and y'all know how rough 2020 was for the world and for music at large. So this just kind of felt like a thing that happened. It certainly wasn't very memorable, and at the time I wasn't a fan of it, but trust me, he had much darker days than this mixtape. It has its moments, it's got a couple joints on it, but it's very just there. It's almost one of those projects that he's known to do, or he'll just drop this to be like, hey y'all, remember I'm still a thing? So it doesn't seem like to have a lot of focus behind it. It's just like a reminder that he exists. This is a mixtape that exists. It's not great, but it's not horrible. It's not memorable, but if you listening to it, you don't feel like you're wasting your time. It's just a thing that's out there to boost those streaming numbers. I promise y'all, we get to actually some dope albums later, I promise. Alright, coming in at number 9 is Her Loss. Probably the best of the modern day Drake projects. And I mean, you probably will say that I'm saying that because of the inclusion of the guest star, which is 21 Savage. 21 is funny because when he first dropped, I was not a fan of the bank account man who was like just 1, 2, 3. I mean, it sounded like something from Sesame Street. I'm like, why are we supposed to like him? But over time, and especially by the time we got to this era, 21 really developed into his own artist. And even though he has that quirky, choppy delivery, I like it. I kind of became a 21 fan. So having him here with Drake really helped Drake have some focus, unlike the Party Next Door where they're just drunk crooning. It seems like there's a lot more focus on this album than other projects. However, it's still another project that's still kind of forgettable in the long scheme of things. Mainly people remember this album for the drama, like the drama with the Megan Thee Stallion lyrics or the shots that he made at Serena Williams' husband. So people remember more about the stuff than the actual project. And that project is okay. And 21 of course does a lot to lift it, but give Drake his credit because he's actually doing his thing too. This one could have been better, a lot better with a little bit more focus, like most of these albums on the later half on this list. But of all of them that we've mentioned so far, this is the one that I actually would listen to occasionally. Maybe more for 21, but hey, we're getting somewhere. We're getting somewhere with this one. A decent album, sort of. Nah, son, this album is too low, son. What are you doing? Oh, man, no. I'm gonna drag you to Waffle House and fight you in the parking lot, son. That's how we do it. Drake is our GOAT, son. I knew I was gonna hear it about this one. Coming in at number 8, if you're reading this, it's too late. AKA the album cover written by the Cows from Chick-fil-A. This, personally for me, is the project where I started to see a whole bunch of cracks in the Drake armor. So in 2015, Drake is being celebrated and his foothold is strong as like the prominent mainstream rapper in the industry. By 2015, you couldn't debate that. Like, he was there. Like, Kendrick was doing his thing, but when you look at just mainstream hip hop, the face of it was Drake. And I don't know if he got cocky or what, but this is the era where stuff started to quickly go downhill. So even though this album is going to be highly celebrated because it came out in his peak of popularity, it's not really that good, and it's a big step down from the stuff that came before. And that's why I was so disappointed in it, because by 2015 I was still tracking for Drake. I was like, okay, he got a new project, I'll hit it. This album particularly, I picked up right before I went on a road trip. I had a speaking engagement about an hour away, so I was like, I'll throw on this new Drake. I like 10 bands. That's about it. Again, there was just, no, it wasn't as unfocused as some of the previous projects we talked about. There was still just a big dip in the lyricism, the production. It just seemed very cheaply put together. And I don't mean that as in it was inexpensive. I mean that it seemed rushed and it didn't have the focus overall that was part of some of his earlier projects. Before this, it seemed like he was rising and like getting better as an artist. And by here, we're leveling off and then dropping. So I know many of you watching this love this album. Might be the first Drake project you ever heard. Might have been your first time listening to it, going to the club. I'm not here to stop on your nostalgia. But from a quality aspect, it was just okay. And I was frustrated because I was like, I know he can do better than this. I know he can do better. Right? Right? Somewhat. Okay album. I know it has a lot of fans. I'm just not one. No. So what you doing? You keep putting these dope albums so low, son. This album slaps. I'm gonna slap you with a biscuit from Popeye, son. Them things hard, son. What you doing? This is our GOAT. This is our GOAT, son. Don't do it. Coming in at number 7, yes, is Views. And just like the project we talked about before it, this is the album that followed. If you're reading this, it's too late. Drake was at an all-time high. Everything he did was the best thing ever. And I'm like, really, y'all? This isn't nearly as good as the stuff that he was putting out before. But I will say this. There is a lot here that I enjoy way more than the previous projects that we discussed. I really liked some of the samples that were used. I really liked that he was able to kind of diversify some of the content he was talking about. And lyrically, when he wanted to rap, he was actually pretty sharp on a lot of the stuff. I was surprised. It's like, okay, he's still showing me that he has a little bit of the fire. The thing that took away from me, though, is number one, it's way too long, as most of his projects are. So there's a lot of filler that you got to chase. Also, this was definitely around the time where he was getting into sad boy Drake. And that is pretty exhausting when every song is about how I'm the best thing ever and y'all don't appreciate me and I'm so dope and this. Like, all right, that's okay for one aspect. But when that message starts to permeate throughout the entire project, it makes it very weary. It makes for a very exhaustive listen between that and the long run time. But like I said, there's some very good songs here. Like Controller, everybody likes Controller. The Views, like Western Road Flows. There's some really good tracks here. I like some of the samples, but it's just too much. And I think that you could really, if you go back and actually analyze what he's saying, you can really hear Drake doubting himself, despite what he says. He's doubting himself as an artist, and that heavy atmosphere, I think, kind of pulls it down for me. It's easy to overlook it if you're just listening to Controller and you're just dancing around. But if you actually feel what he's saying, this album is actually kind of heavy. And between that and the long run time and some of the other flaws, makes it a knock against it. Again, a project that could have been better. I don't hate it, but I also don't love it. And I'm not sure that a lot of the love it receives is all that welcome. Again, better stuff to come later. Alright, coming in at number 6 is More Life. And I feel like I'm in the minority, but I kind of like More Life. I thought this project was pretty okay. So it's funny, Drake didn't even call this an album. He didn't even try to con y'all on this one. He called it a playlist. Like, it's exactly what it is. It's definitely a playlist. Like, it's just random stuff. But it's some really fun stuff here. Like, Passion Fruit is so fun. Glow with Kanye is one of my favorites from them. Like, the sounds are different. Whereas a lot of modern day Drake songs all sound the same. He was experimenting with different sounds. So you never knew what you were going to get. You could get a up-tempo, which I miss. You could get this weird, moody R&B song with him and Kanye. Well, rap song, I'm sorry. With him and Kanye. And it's dope. Like, you get different aspects of it. And this leaning into the playlist kind of theme, whereas most times that would annoy me. At least he outright said it, so that way it doesn't seem as jarring for an old head reviewer like me when I'm like, this album has no consistency. Well, he told you why it doesn't. It's a playlist. So I'm like, okay, I'll be a little nicer to you this time. This is I thought, kind of fun project. Again, it's a little forgettable because it's not loaded with the hits that he usually has on some other projects, but it's one that I went back and revisited many times, more so than the other projects on the list. Not bad, and it showed that even in 2017, Drake had a little bit more gas in the tank. I just wish he kept it up. Coming in at number 5 is Thank Me Later. This is an album that I feel like, even personally, I can speak on, has gotten better over time. Sort of like J. Cole, when J. Cole first released his debut, coming off of that gigantic and celebrated mixtape run. When we got his debut, it was kind of like, oh, this is a disappointment. This isn't as good as the mixtapes. Now, I feel like Thank Me Later got the same knock coming off of his big mixtape that we'll be talking about a little bit later, and we expected this big project from Drake, and we're like, it's all right, it's cool, it's not as good as the last one. But looking back and with time, I think this is a pretty good album. It's fun. Drake does the romantic man thing, and he doesn't sound as, I don't know, he just sounds so hypocritical and not believable in a lot of his stuff now. The cynicism that's so rooted in his music isn't there. He just sounds more fresh-faced and energetic, and when he's ready to spit, he's ready to spit. Now, of course, we got to deal with him pretending to be a mobster sometimes. I'm like, dude, calm down. Chill out. You're not a gang boss. But that's hip-hop, so that doesn't bother me as much. But when you look at a project that has some great R&B, some good hip-hop, and married together, I thought this was a great introduction to the mainstream for those who may have missed his introductory mixtape. This may not have been the album, the 5-star classic some people thought when it debuted, but looking back, this is a very solid project, and by far washes away a lot of the more recent stuff. So I've turned the corner on this one. Can't say I'm a total hater because I was in on this, but I'm with it now. I'd rock it. I'd rock it today. No, I don't even know what this album is. This is a Drake album? This a Drake album? I don't know this album, son. Like, I don't know. Glad you ranked it high, but I don't know what this is. See, look at you, Stans. Look at you, Stans. You think you know everything and you know nothing. Coming in at number 4 is Comeback Season, aka what I like to call Sears Catalog Drake. Look at that cover. He looks like he should be modeling coats for Burlington Coat Factory. I really like this album, and this is the one that was like, all right, Drake might be onto something. This mixtape was something that really showed the promise of Drake the artist. And if you have not heard this, I behoove you to listen to it, because yes, this was prior to the crazy stance thinking everything he does is gold. And many of y'all missed it. If you listen to this album is way more Little Brother than Lil Baby. Trust me. It's way more soulful. Drake is pulling on those influences. He's got songs with clips. Back before when everybody was happy. This is really it feels like from the era, the mixtape era, like the mid-2000s, where people were hopping on other people's beats and songs, and you had this really up-and-coming, fresh artist who could marry both worlds of hip-hop and R&B into his sound. This is the project that showed me, okay, there might be something here with homie, and he was able to do that very well. Of course, as time went on, his sound has evolved. It's not nearly this soulful. It's not nearly this polished. It's not nearly this, as far as lyric heavy and leaning on the sentiments of R&B. He doesn't do that anymore. So if you're looking for that, the Drake that had even the old heads like this guy is dope, this is the project. This is the project for you. And for you youngins who haven't heard it, go back and check it out. I think you'll enjoy it. Coming in at number 3, might be a little low for some of y'all, but I think it's the proper placement. So Far Gone, the mixtape that started it all. If you ask me, this is what a Time to Be Alive should have been named. Like this is the one. This is the mixtape in 2009 when my young brother-in-law at the time hit me up and was like, this guy, you got to hear this. This dude is so great. This dude is so incredible. And for his generation, I knew a star was born because they were losing their minds over this young dude named Drake. He spoke so directly to his young millennial fan base, whether it was just the hip-hop side, where there was the, oh, I just want to be in love, sensitive side, and ladies loved it because they felt like, oh, he's so sensitive, he's talking directly toward us. And I was like, that boy running game on y'all, as we learned he was. But regardless, this is an album that spoke directly to a generation, and in my opinion, it's one of those tentpole albums that really shifted the sound of hip-hop going into the 2010s. This album, Carter 3, and a couple others are the ones that really made hip-hop for the next decade sound like what it sounded like, because everybody was trying to copy this sound, and Drake was a pioneer of that. It was an absolute star-making performance, and this wasn't even an album, this was a mixtape. This was before the debut, but we knew that there was something special going on here. The buzz was insane, and to this day it still holds up as some of his best work. So if you're looking to tell the story of Drake, you cannot leave out this one. So Far Gone was the one that really put the fuel in a rocket ship and propelled his career. And you know what? It's a pretty great project too. Coming in at number 2 is some people's number 1, but it's my number 2, obviously. Nothing Was the Same. This is another fan favorite that has only gotten better over time. It's a project that when I first heard it, I was like, oh, it's cool. But the more I listened to it, the more I was entrenched into the production and pulled into it. The more I was listening to the bars, I'm like, oh, that boy's spitting a little bit. Drake kind of spitting a little bit. This is the project that really did it for me. The only thing that I would kind of push back against a little bit is that some of the more celebrated singles I don't think are as good as people like Worst Behavior. Getting started from the bottom is kind of corny to me, but I do not look. I recognize their success and I give them props for their success, but they just don't do it for me. But what does do it for me are those album cuts. Oh my gosh, there are so many tracks here that have become staples of my playlist. Like from Too Much and From Time and Pound Cake. These are songs that, like, when I had the old iPod, y'all shout out to my iPod crew. When I had an iPod, those things were entrenched on my iPod. Because even if I didn't like the singles, there were definite songs here that carried it. When I look at this as an overall project, it is the perfect project because it has the mainstream stuff that's going to appeal, but then it also has the album cuts that stand the test of time. That, my friends, is what makes a solid album. Not just 2 decent songs that you can cherry pick and make your own playlist with, but a project that has all of that self-contained that you can play all the way through and be like, man, this has some heat on it. Drake, to me as an artist, was really starting to find himself, and I thought that the next projects were really going to show growth, but unfortunately I feel like a lot of his growth really stunted in this era. This is about as good as we've gotten, and he hasn't gotten to that level yet, but there's still one project that was even better than this one. Without question, coming in at number 1 is Drake and Take Care. And I know that when you look at the top 3 of Drake, unless you was just born like literally yesterday, your top 3 albums are probably going to be Take Care, Nothing Was the Same, or even if you're going to slide in So Far Gone. Like, those are the preeminent Drake projects. If you're out here talking about the Chick-fil-A album is better than this, you've lost your mind. But the reason why this one stands at number 1 is because it was around the time of where we were moving away from So Far Gone and the Thank Me Later era, and this is when Drake began to stand on his own 2 feet. And even though this album has the same problem with the bloated track list that I've been complaining about the whole time, and some of the singles that are just as an overall project, this is it. This is where he got it all together. You got the incredible production. You got the great braggadocio bars. You got like the straight, just like bar fest, really, like with like Underground Kings, where dudes is going crazy. The production is incredible. He's got some great, just like hidden gems that are thrown here, like the samples with like the John B sample on the camera song. There's just so much here to uncover and dig through. And it, like some of the other albums we've talked about in that era, it just really speaks directly to his audience, that young millennial audience of the early 2000s, the early 2010s. They ate this up because it was speaking directly to them. And for my money, it felt like the most authentic of the Drake projects. This felt like Drake being Drake, not Drake trying to pretend to be some tough guy, or Drake trying to be something else, or, oh, I'm just gonna use this fake accent for this. He was really in himself, and he seemed more comfortable as an artist as he's ever done before. And yeah, he's had a lot of backing from guys like Weeknd, who were really helping to drive his sound. But he feels most comfortable here. His bars are the sharpest, and he just looks like the guy who is going to carry hip-hop for the next decade. Well, I was not the biggest Drake fan even in 2011, but this is the album that convinced me, like, my personal biases aside, whatever they may be, I recognize him as that dude going forward. So this is the album that did it, and of all the projects we talked about on this list, is the only one that still holds up to the hype. By far, Drake's best album, Take Care. Not even close to me. Alright, that's all the Drake albums projects. I skipped a few things. I skipped Care Package, which I love, by the way. Man, I thought that was incredible. I skipped a few projects, but we hit on the best LPs, few of the mixtapes, some of the EPs. So hopefully you get a whole scope of Drake's career. And look, we all have opinions. There are some that I do not like at all. But objectively, there are some great projects here as well. So now is your turn. For those of you who aren't plotting my death at the moment, run in the comments and let me know what you think. Where did you put Drake's projects? Where do you think I was a little too rough? Where do you think I was a little too easy? I mean, let me know. We can have some nice, civilized conversation and talk about this artist who, for better or worse, has helped shape hip-hop and even a little bit of R&B for the past decade. So, let me know. Now I know why the caged owl sings, or raps, or whatever this is. Anyway, this edition of the Soul and Stereo Sessions is a wrap. Y'all have a good day. I think I'll stick with Bun Squeaks instead of this guy, though. Play on, players.